I'm going first.
This is the first time you're going to be first.
You see how that works, folks? Talk about this pump track, Brian.
Well, you want to keep your pedals level going through, and you kind of want to just push your way through it. Dan, whoa, I'm catching up to you.
We have our Tab Nansen shoes on. Here we go. All right, Brian, how many years have we competed in this? I'm not going to say how many years you've won, because I know I squeezed at least one win out of this.
I think there is one.
At least one. I'm going to assume 2 wins somewhere in there.
You might be stretching it now.
Yeah, but I know I at least got one.
A photo finish. Well, Kenny did win.
Kenny won!
It was close, though.
Oh, I'm keeping this one.
But Ken, here, I got something for you.
Oh, yeah.
Because you didn't give me a treat.
I did not.
I got a trick for you.
You got a trick for me.
So we got a little bit of a trick here.
Okay, we have a trick, dude. Oh, wait a minute.
Rex.
Oh, wait a minute.
Rex is here for us.
We're going Copperfield.
With us today is Kenny Crumpton, the leader of Kickin' It with Kenny. I'm Brian Zimmerman, the host of Tales and Trails presented by KeyBank. Thank you so much for being our guest on episode 8 here. Kenny Crumpton is an Emmy winning. Talk to me about that. How many Emmys have you won?
3. So I'm on my 4th. 3 Emmys over the years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
A true staple of Cleveland television for over 25 years. He's also been an avid outdoor enthusiast. I think that's why we probably get along as best we have. We've done biking, hiking, stretching. We've done golf. We've done mowing challenges. We've ridden pets before at the zoo. I can't think of more of an opportunity to tell the story of Cleveland than through the Kickin' It with Kenny series.
Yeah, that's pretty well. You're right. We've done a lot.
This Tales and Trails podcast is really about connections that people have, and not only to the Park District, but really to this region. And talk to me a little bit of how did you end up in Cleveland? We talk about Texas, we talk about your family. Like, how did you get here?
Well, it was pretty funny. It's like the spaghetti thing. You throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. I was in Central California, Fresno. San Francisco up here, LA down here, and I wanted to go to those markets, but you have to go to a bigger city before you go there. And so we had 7 offers. My agent and I had 7 offers. Cleveland was the best. I said, okay, I'll just be there for 3 years, because a very young Kenny thought, LA and San Francisco are going to be begging for this young kid named Kenny out of Cleveland. So one thing led to another, and 25 years later, here I am. So really, it was, I guess, kind of random, because I just wanted to get to a really big city to cut my teeth, and then fell in love with the market. And if the offers in the past have been just okay, but not good enough for me to leave Cleveland. I'm like, I have it really good here. My team, we actually love each other on the morning show. Mid-March,
I ended up turning up with my 15th year here. And, I think it's one of those things where people often say, well, what's next? And I said, this is what's next. I love being here. Talk about what's grown on you about Cleveland in your 25 years. I mean, what are the things that you treasure the most, besides tacos that we were talking about earlier? And Kenny and I always laugh. It's like, we have this banter back and forth. It's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. So
that's why I'm like, this is so formal. Usually just you and I, hanging out. What's the sense of exploration? I have a really, I was fortunate enough to meet this really cool couple. They travel a lot, and they say, Kenny, when we travel like we're locals, but we live home like we're on vacation in terms of exploration. So what I've loved the best is, and people don't believe me, after 25 years, I'm still finding new things I haven't done. Even if they would let me go 2 hours out, oh my goodness, the other stuff I could show people would be amazing. So I try to keep it within an hour. But yeah, Brian, just every month there's something new. Every year there's been something new over 25 years, and that's why I love it. I really do. It's corny, but it's the truth.
Well, let's talk about the brand, Kickin' It with Kenny. I mean, Kickin' It, can mean a lot of different things.
Right.
But, talk about how did Kickin' It with Kenny come about, and this, I would say, iconic look forward to, where is Kenny today? And I've seen you in craft stores. I've seen you behind vehicles, biking. I've seen you in, one day I think you were taking care of a snake or something.
Yeah.
I mean, so you've had some pretty unusual things, but talk about how did we get to, Kickin' It with Kenny?
I was replacing Lori Vick, who's an amazing woman, and I just saw her at Tim Taylor's roast. She's still doing great. And so, to your point, I've always had this sense of exploration. So I said, let me explore this city. Let me explore the city because I'm only going to be here 3 years. Let me explore this city, and I'm going to take you guys along. Let's hang out. Let's kick it. And the Kicking It with Kenny came. This is pretty funny. There was a show called Hanging with Mr. Cooper with Mark Curry as the lead, and that's kind of like a fun thing because he was a teacher and all the kids liked him. And then I'm like, okay, so what's like hanging with Mr. Cooper? At that time, Kicking It was the vernacular. So I said, Kicking It with Kenny. That'll be cool because we're hanging out. We're going to go explore together. We're going to kick it, and that's how it became basically a Kenny exploration. It was so funny. At the time, the X-Files was big on Fox, and they're like, how about the Kenny Files? I'm like, no, dude. That doesn't sound cool. The Kenny Files. So I came up with my own.
I like Kicking It with Kenny. It's interesting, this, again, being my 15th year here, I spent 8 in Milwaukee, and knowing that you exist here, I think, is one, pretty cool. In Milwaukee with the Fox 8, they had Ask Gus, and so this guy's name was Gus Gnorski.
Okay.
And he had like a home, like improvement little studio, but then Ask Gus would go out on like location, and he and I would banter back and forth about Polish sausage or, where are the best French fries in town, and that's kind of, I think when you look at your persona, talk about your connection with nature. I think that's one of the things that, when you think of our 25,000 acres and a lot of the things you and I have done, we've literally been in the middle of nature. Everything, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you and I joke about this. When we grew up, it was like you came home from school, you did your homework, and then you went out to play. There was no hanging out. Get out of the house, go play until the lights came on and you came in. So that same sense of going out and let me go to the creek and catch tadpoles. Let me go, build a fort over here in this vacant lot. Let's go play football over here. Just that same exploration of there's something, let's find something new. And when I got here and started researching Cleveland, I learned about the Metroparks. I'm like, okay, well, let me see what they have. And then boom, just this massive list. I'm like, okay. So I said, every month I'm going to do something new at the Metroparks that I'd never done before. And what fascinated me is people started coming up to me, the Metroparks has that? I never knew it. I'm like, oh, I thought I was just repeating what everybody was doing. So I really knew I was on to something, and the more I did it, the more people said, hey, that Metroparks is right by me. I'm going to go do that thing you did. So that really, it just made it easy. It was a no-brainer.
Well, let's talk about, so, again, you're a frequent, consumer, and then let's talk about, like, our challenges.
We've had a few.
I think of one of the, this wasn't actually a challenge, but it was our 100-year celebration.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out, I think, 100 miles through the Emerald Necklace or something.
Yes.
Do you remember one of the miles that we did with your cameraman in the back? So walk us through, what were we doing that morning?
Well, the principle was, okay, we're going to go 100 miles. Was that? I think that was going to be the first for us.
It may have been the first, yeah.
Yeah, and so we had, and I love movement in my shots. That's okay. And you're like, yeah, Ken, we got to move. We didn't figure that the exhaust coming from the vehicle was going to choke us. So we're like, so this is the 100. But we got through the 3-minute live shot because we had to be close enough for him to get us. So we had to get close to the exhaust. But we were like, we were dying. That was so funny, though.
I think Bob was driving. Who was the cameraman at the time?
I think it was Piger.
Yeah.
So Bob was driving the car. Piger was sitting back on the tailgate, and then you and I were there, and we were so smart. Weren't we going up a hill?
Yeah, we were going up the Stinchcomb Memorial Hill. Yep. We're like, wow, this is really intelligent.
Yeah, this is really great. A couple of young guys like us doing a hill while we're talking and interviewing live. So that was fun. That was really cool.
That was, again, our 100-year celebration back in 2017. This concept of being out and being active, and that to me was one of the more unique ones kind of along the way. And we'll cover a few more kind of as we'll sprinkle in a few of those. But do you have a routine like when you're getting out to the park? I mean, we can talk about golf and some of the things that you like to do when you're out there, but talk to us a little, the listeners, about what you like to do. And
it's really interesting. As much as I enjoy the parks, we are creatures of habit. So every summer I say, okay, I'm going to do at least one activity at each park you have. So that's my routine. But the game I play with myself is I can't do the same activity that I did the year before.
Wow.
So, and it's been great. So I really haven't repeated anything on that. When I say, okay, every reservation, something new. But I challenged myself every year, do one thing at every reservation every summer.
So with us today is Kenny Crumpton, the face of Kickin' It with Kenny. Talk to us a little bit about, do you have a favorite place? Like if you had to go and like either ponder or think or recreate in the Emerald Necklace, where would you go and why? Why would you go there?
We talked about this. I'm a big skier, snowboarder, so I like to be on top of mountains and look out. And the steps at the Rocky River Reservation, we had a fun story about that when we brought the wrestling team out, but we won't go there.
No, we have to bring that out because that is probably one of the coolest things. You know, so Kenny and I, again, this competition back and forth, Mike Durkalak said, you know, hey, when I was in, you remember this, when I was in at wrestling at Baldwin Wallace, the wrestling team had to run those stairs. And so Earl was also there, the 80-year-old gentleman that had the 10 pennies in his pocket, and he would put them on to go up and down. And then this wrestling team, it was kind of that foggy, cool morning, and these guys are like, what are they making me do? But that was the inaugural run of the 150 plus stairs, and there's nothing closer to God than those stairs.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like you're going to get to them too after about 100. But getting up there, and I fortunately for my job, I'm off when everybody's working. So when you get up, I usually have it by myself, and you look over and it's gorgeous. And so that's a really cool, quiet place where you feel really small because everything looks really, really big. Yeah.
You know, I think of the Metroparks and I think of Stinchcombe, and I think of that being one of the, you know, it was the original 3 acres came just north of there. But when you look at the riparian system being on the Chagrin River, the Rocky River, and now more in Ohio and Erie Canal, certainly all the tributaries, but the confluences of the two rivers meeting and then coming through that Shale Cliff Wall, the nature center, it is truly one of
perfect, man.
Yeah, it's
it
one
really
of the,
is.
Now I hear, you know, the steelheat, we've got fishing season and, you know, all those wonderful things. So we tipped our hat a little bit on our competitions, but how many competitions do you think we've had over the years? And then who do you think is winning the competitions?
You asked me in your brand new studio.
This is our house.
Yeah, I know. All right, you asked me in your house. A little home court advantage there, Brian.
A little.
Not like a home court advantage. You know what? The beautiful answer I have is I don't know because there've been so many. You know, we don't do everything but checkers. We've done so much stuff. So I'd say at least a dozen that I can remember.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's probably a good number. When we think about the toboggans, I think there was a champion. There was a winner that was crowned the last time, and then I noticed that we didn't schedule it this year. Well, but I think you won, and then you're just like, I'm not doing this again.
Actually, that's an accidentally good strategy. Just say, but we're coming back next year.
I remember that morning, and I was like, the photo finish, you know, I think there could be an argument for that, but I will say you went probably 30 yards farther than I did.
That was so weird. We just went on like to the service road. That was so funny.
I think one of the fun times was when we opened the Cleveland Cliffs Bike Park, and we're kind of reminiscing our childhood a little bit on our bikes that morning. And as I also remember, there were folks that came from, I think, Pittsburgh and Virginia. Remember that morning?
Yeah.
They came in, they're just like, why are you here? Like, we heard this new bike park got here.
Open.
Yep.
You were like, we didn't really advertise yet, but they through the grapevine in that community. It reminds me of something else. We just opened.
I know exactly where you're
East
going.
Bank of the Flats. We just opened. What trail was that?
It was the first connection of the Cleveland Centennial Foundation Lake Link Trail, and I'll let you finish the story because I know exactly what you're going to say.
So we're like, okay, so let's do this, and we'll come up on this thing. Looks really, really cool. Because if you guys watch the shot, I love movement. I don't like to stand in one place. So hey, we'll come up here, Brian. It'll be a money shot. And so we're standing there talking, and this guy's jogging. He's like, hey, I'm in town from Massachusetts. How do I get to? I'm like, oh, what? So we haven't even opened it, and there was a guy here on a business trip already using it before it was officially open. That was so cool.
That was, I would say, one of the marquee moments because they had no idea who we were, none of those conversations. And you remember I asked him, like, how did you hear? It's like, oh, the concierge at the hotel said that this trail. So he goes, I just went out and found it. And that was on the bridge as we were walking. And he's like, hey, where do I go? And I'm like, go up there, take a left, and then you can work your way right back downtown.
And how cool was that?
It was super cool, and I think it's, you know, when you looked at one of the core pillars of the Metroparks over time and our new, you know, kind of focus on connecting communities, that to me told a great story because hopefully this gentleman went back and said, hey, I had this great, you know, experience back in Cleveland. So let's talk about live TV a little bit. I mean, honestly, I think you make it, you know, very, very easy. you and I laugh a lot. We get handed notes by our team and we're prepped, and then we just do
Yeah.
kind of whatever
And then
we
go,
want.
"Oh, did we cover that?"
Yeah. And most times they say, "Hey, you guys did a good job." But
Yeah.
the craft of what you have to do in live TV is different. You don't get a do-over. It's like you gotta, whether the Grinch or
No, one take. Yeah.
What? Oh, live TV. Do you remember the one time at the Trick or Treat Fest?
Where
What happened at the Trick or Treat Fest?
where the Tyrannosaurus was dropping it like it was hot in
Yeah.
front of me. Yeah.
Do you-
It's like, okay, yeah, and I didn't know it was Brian. So we had all the kids dressed up, and Brian had on one of those, T-Rex outfits, and he was just. I'm like, okay, and we have little Jimmy and little Susie, and somebody in T-Rex. Okay, yeah, okay, bring your kids to. Okay, T-Rex. Okay, Tolman, T-Rex guy. Okay, and then so finally you took it off, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it was really funny. It was hilarious. I didn't know that was you. So yeah,
it was nice to get one over you
yeah,
that morning.
you did.
so-
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write that down. Get Brian for that T-Rex dancing, drop it like it's hot video. Okay.
That was fun. So talk about live TV. I mean, like the challenges, and talk about your crew, Lamont and Bob, and the people that have been with you. I mean, I remember the morning we were shooting down at Wendy Park, Whiskey Island, and I think Bob may have lost part of his pack, and he was like circling the van back and forth. And but your team and Fox 8. I mean, honestly, you're in the game. Like you want the best shots, and you work hard at the craft. But talk about the challenges with live TV.
Well, live TV is live TV. I've got a million stories that I can't tell right now. But for me, I want every shot, even though we're in the same location. Big example is the zoo. And Jackson Tolman and Danny will tell you this. We're at the zoo. I have 5 shots. I want to be in 5 different locations in that zoo every morning, because we might be talking about this, but I'm like, okay, well, let's go here, and here to talk about it. So for me, that's my approach. I want to show people 5 different views of whatever I'm talking about, because some person might like this view, some person might like that view. So you never know. And everybody else is standing. They stand there. I'm like, well, I want to appear different. I want it to feel different. I want it to look different, because we're predators. Our eyes are up front. So when you see movement, we stop and look. So anytime I'm on, that's why I'm always trying to move, because people are going to stop brushing their teeth and look and say, what is he? Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's kind of my secret to keep moving. But yeah, make every shot look different. There's 5 shots every morning. I want every shot to look different.
I think that's so true when you think of, being able to announce the rhino birth and the balloon, the different things that we've been able to do. This is a true personal story, dating back to Paul Bottomer and the takeover of the lakefront. You'll remember that morning.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I want to get emotional, but that was
That was great.
That was probably one of the coolest things I've seen happen. The power of television, live television that morning. Your team decided to come down and we're playing volleyball, we're moving around the sand, and we're doing all these things, and we're trying to get Edgewater back in the fray of what is cool about Cleveland. And talk about that morning. I mean,
That was so cool.
What happened?
And kudos to you guys, because you really cleaned Edgewater up. I remember you said you want to make this a shining example of what can be done, and you want to show people, guess what? Come on out. There's something for you here. So when we were all talking about that, like, okay, Kenny, we want you roaming. You're going to do 5 or 6 other things, but we want to bring everything we can to the anchors and have the anchors move. We had a sandcastle making. We had everything. And so no matter what we came up with, you guys said, yeah. And we were getting excited. Okay, we can do that? Yeah. And so what was really cool, Brian, is first of all, we had so many people saying, oh, it looks beautiful. But then remember, viewers were coming down that said, I haven't been here in 30 years. I haven't been here in 40 years. And my goodness, I'm going to go get my grandkids. So to see that instant positive reaction about that, we all were kind of because we were in our zone. Okay, we're going to do this, make sure that gets here on time. But when other people and we had a band there and they were jamming and playing music and we could feel it. But when the rest of the people came down and said, what a great job, this is amazing, I'm coming back. That's when it really hit us all. We were like, wow, okay, we gave the city something. Well, you guys gave the city something really big, and we had the chance to go, hey, it's just for all of us. Let's go. Yeah,
But I mean, we had Wayne and Christy, and we're running
Yeah,
and
the
the
whole
sand
show
and the
down
Darren
there.
and
Yep.
the cables and everything else, and it came off. And everything you said, it was so authentic. When you saw the folks, and there were comments, exactly what you said. I haven't been here in 30 years. I saw it this morning, and I had to come down. To me, that was like the aha moment of, hey, we've done this. We've cleaned the beach every day. We've got a clean, safe environment. And now all of a sudden, with that Cleveland sign up on top that we've shown probably in millions of pictures and postcards, it's like, hey, welcome to Cleveland. To me, that's about the Renaissance. So again, the Brian and Kenny show going on here. Let's talk about the golf. Let's talk about, one of the things that we're both really passionate about. We played on a team before and kind of like what that means. And, we were talking about the TV personalities, and this golf event really is kind of about, that being able to see the people that you see on TV and personalize it. So talk about the golf event.
Well, it's really cool. We joke about this because I was late to the golf game. I've only been playing about 15 years.
Sometimes it shows, Kenny.
Sometimes, pretty much all the time. But I love it. But what I know, since I was late to the golf game, and you get out there, and what I notice is when you just start talking about stuff. You start talking about your family. You start talking about your plans. You start talking about things. So it's a really cool avenue to just like get to know your buddies better. And so the tournament, there's a lot of us who play golf, and we have different schedules. Playing golf was one of the few times we could always get together. So that sense of camaraderie, that sense of let's hang out and talk, we wanted to spread that out. And then for a lot of people like Edgewater Park, they haven't been to your golf course. And they're like, hey, this is really nice. Oh my goodness, look at this place. Like, yeah, you passed it a million times. So coming out again, Seneca, same thing. When we opened that and the way you guys turned Seneca around, amazing. And now how many rounds was it last summer? It was insane.
350 north of that. And, we're in the process of renovating the last 9 at Seneca, bringing that on board. I remember there's days that, Eli was running around and you were on the mower. It's like, well, Eli's gone. And,
right.
There were so many wonderful moments that, we've been able to unveil things that I think are very important to this community. So let's pivot a little bit. With us today is Kenny Crumpton on the episode of Tales and Trails podcast. You're not just, a television personality and that, but you're invested in the community. Talk a little bit about Chain Reaction, some of the things that, the Cleveland, that makes you kind of like Cleveland proud, Cleveland strong.
That's a good question. I try to stay away from, big national franchise. I like the mom and pops. And there was this city was built on mom and pops, if you look at our history. And so every time I would do a story, they would call like a week later, Kenny, thank you so much. So many people came in. It helped our business so well. It helped so much. We appreciate that. And I'm like, okay. And so every time I would show up, I knew it helped the business, and I knew mom and pops are pretty much like a really great engine that fuels the city in terms of, in terms of finances, in terms of creativity, in terms of longevity. So when the Cleveland Chain Reaction came along, I was like, this is basically what I've been doing this whole time, not really in an organized state, because I would always ask people, okay, are you guys going to open a second store? Well, that would be great, but we've been here so long. We don't know how to get that ball rolling now. So that was a question I would always ask. How about another store? You're going to do it. So when Chain Reaction came along, I'm like, perfect. This is a chance for me to take another step and invest in all the mom and pops here. So many, because I've seen and heard about so many great ideas, but people didn't know how to get it started. So Chain Reaction was a great, because they were doing, well, I'm working out of my kitchen. I'm working out of my garage. I'm working in my friend's garage. I just don't know how to get to the next level. So that's what Chain Reaction was all about. And it's been amazing.
As we were sitting here talking about, being what I would call a celebrity in town, what's it like, when you're in the grocery store, it's like, hey, Kenny, like, how are you? How do you work yourself, how do you work yourself through some of those things?
It's usually a couple. People, 99% of the time, people are very, very nice. I'm like, hey, thank you so much. They're like, oh, and a lot of times, now, where was that place that you went to 4 years ago with the guy with the thing? I'm like, okay, can you?
And you have a great memory.
Yeah, I'm getting older, bro. I'm like, okay, could you be a bit more specific? But what I love is they always, like I said, 99% of the people are very kind, and they're always asking about something I did because I want to go to that thing. So, which lets me know, okay, they are interested. They want to go. They're going to participate in something you guys throw. They're going to go to this mom and pop. So usually it's just a quick selfie and thank you so much. And I'm like, thank you for watching. My joke is tell 2 friends because I need, more ratings. So.
So with us today is Kenny Crumpton. Kenny, Kicking It with Kenny, iconic, Fox 8, local TV. What would you like your legacy to be here in Cleveland?
Just keep it simple. Just a guy who showed everybody how beautiful this city is. One thing that we all share is our humanity. We talk about this. We've come from different backgrounds, and we just click like that. So you'll see me go to the Croatian place, the Slovenian place. You'll see me with the mom and pop. You'll see me do everything. Places that you probably wouldn't think I would go, but once I get there, we're laughing and we're joking and we're sharing. So that's all I want, is a guy who just really showed people the kindness in the city. That's it. That's it.
It's interesting when you talk about Destination Cleveland and being a location of choice. A number of years ago, it was really hard for Clevelanders to even kind of promote its own city, and that number was below 50%, and now we're in the mid 70s, and you start to see again the momentum and the swing, and certainly you see the assets, and we're very proud to when Edgewater kind of came on board and Merwin's, and I think back to the memories of all the things that you've gotten, and we've got Wallace Lake coming up this year, and we're working at the zoo. There are so many things that are told through this story. So again, with me today is Kenny Crumpton, Fox 8 TV personality and good friend. I am very afraid of this next part. I get to, you can ask questions from our listeners / viewers. You can ad lib. I hope you don't.
You saw me laughing.
I did, but I'm going to turn the mic over to you for your first question.
Oh boy, if we weren't recording, I would be getting you right now, but I'm going to keep it professional. Brian.
I appreciate that.
Some viewers want to know, listeners, what trail maintenance or trail improvements are underway this year. I mean, why don't you choose some trails that are going to be new and some trails that you guys, if you don't realize this, you guys have a team that goes in and creates trails. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different ways to look at our trail and trail design. One is kind of the earth invisible ones that go through the woods. And so we talk about our West Creek property in the Parmadale and where the old boys town was. And, we call it High Top Park. Our park area is one of the taller or highest places in Cuyahoga County. And, one of the things you and I have, we've ridden our mountain bikes and we've been through the woods. That experience is really kind of second to none, these kind of flow through areas. And we opened up the Royal View Trail system and we were in Bedford. And so this has been a continuation of building sustainable trails. And then we talk about this ecosystem of, our first part of the mission is, conservation of how we're protecting land, starting from the first 3, moving up forward, and then connecting communities. So the question and the answer is really, there's a beautiful trail complex going from East 9th all the way through East 55th with the support of so many, including the Jack Joseph and Mort Mandel Foundation, Cuyahoga County. But that's really the first trail in North Marginal by the airport. And it'll be a little bit utilitarian in nature. We're going to work to soften it, but that's kind of the first connection going kind of that to east side. We're also partnering with the county, Cuyahoga County under Chris Ronane's, the connection between the top. Thankfully, you and I haven't biked all the way up Warner Hill, but one of us might not make it. But that connection down Garfield Boulevard, it connecting to Garfield Park, a true opportunity to make a connection, and really not to be outdone. The work that we're doing down in Solon, Mayor Krause was one of our guests, and what a difference he's made from an appetite to have these community connections. And not only are we doing the one from Solon to Chagrin Falls, we're now talking about Cleveland to Aurora to Pittsburgh, and then all the way out into the D.C. area. So there are, I think, so many examples of how we're doing that. And then we talk about our maintenance. I think I don't have to think, I know that our teams do the best jobs. During the winter, we're plowing the trails, and there are people that are out and they're active and they're appreciative of the work that our teams do. And we always say details matter. Anybody can do the big, but details matter to us. And so from a trail maintenance, and I will also say, the volunteers that Metroparks has, 7,000 plus volunteers.
That's amazing.
And, they're either trail ambassadors or they're organizations like Key Bank that give days of giving. There are eyes and ears in the park in some of the places that we can't be. So, when we talk about our connections, I talk about 8, 80, or 8, which we're closer to 80 now than 8.
Right.
But whether you're 8 years old or 80, you should have an 8-minute walk or ride to a high-quality park. And
That's cool.
That is one of the things that we will strive in that second century of stewardship.
We've talked about this in our chats. how important, and I'm saying this because a lot of people have said, "Oh, this is so great," was it for you to be able to be anywhere in downtown and then connect with those trails and get elsewhere, or you're outside in your communities and you can get on a trail and go all the way to downtown? That's what so many people, you can actually go from downtown to my suburb or from downtown. Yeah, so that was really big.
It was almost
and it was tricky for you. I don't want to give you a heart attack because I know there is a lot of anxiety just trying to get that connection from downtown out, but that's really important.
You know, there was work of so many that created this towpath, and it dates back 2+ decades. People like Tim Donovan and Tom Yablonsky and previous leaders that held the candle to this opportunity. And now you start to look at, people say, well, why would I want to? It's like, well, why wouldn't you want to? And so when you start to see the stories of the connection, the trails that are coming off the towpath, and it continues to push itself south, and it may, ultimately end up in Columbus and Cincinnati. And when you look at that, there was one day I was on the causeway going, or in between Edgewater and Whiskey Island, and there just happened to be this group of folks, and they were taking a picture. So I stopped my car and I pull out and, hey, where are you guys from? They're like, hey, we're from Pittsburgh. Where can we go? What can we do? There's 20 people that were spending money in our community. So ecotourism does matter, and those trails coming into downtown, whether it's the Red Line Greenway, the North Marginal, the work that we're doing. And we often talk about trails, and the podcast is Tales and Trails. But, one of the things that I'm reminded of is that this is a transportation corridor as well. This is how people get to and from work at times. And to me, to have this livable city like Copenhagen and some of these others, this is Cleveland. This is authentically us.
Yeah, I mean, Bike Cleveland will atone to that because they, so many people use their bikes. Another one, what plans do you have for Gordon Park? I mean, that's been a big baby for you. Yeah.
It's interesting coming here 15 years ago and driving by the aquarium or the old aquarium that, so many people had so many memories about. I'm like, I can understand nostalgia, but there's a tree growing through the middle of the building, and it's time. And so with the help of the Jack Joseph and Mort Mandel Foundation and their civic side of things of kind of redeveloping a strategy for the St. Clair Superior neighborhood, when I think of what Edgewater did to anchor the Detroit Shoreway and continue, Matt Zone was a constant, pusher. Councilman Anthony Hairston, the work that they're trying to do with the CDCs and the others, the Gordon is and it used to be Gordon, it used to be one, and then we got cut through by a freeway, so we call it North Gordon and Gordon South. Ultimately, we'd love to just, Gordon Park. And so whether it's, a better connection going across I-90, but that was personal. That was personal to reinvest in the east side. And it's not without its unique challenges. It's been more of a transient park. And how do we, work for the neighborhood to connect, whether it's coming up MLK through the Cultural Garden, 72nd. We're working with a whole host of alphabet agencies that include ODOT and NOACA and the city, of how do we soften that road, so that people can use that connection. So Gordon is a work in progress.
Okay.
We've got the ball diamonds kind of moved, and we really, the consensus plan of building this great lawn in the middle of it, and then some more amenities to come on board. So I think people, were reminded of Edgewater Park started in 13, and the Centennial Plaza was 17. So we built it with the people that use the park. And not to be outdone, across the street, the Community Sailing Center that we're going to break ground on the 9th. And we've been at East 55th quite a few times. So it's a neat opportunity to, I would say, highlight the fact that this is a waterfront community. This is a connection to Lake Erie and our greatest resource.
COVID was so interesting, and I'm using that word lightly, for all of us. But one aspect of COVID, so many people rediscovered the Metroparks. And you were like, Kenny, we couldn't even imagine this was going to happen. Now, my question is that beautiful wave of people rediscovering the park, has that continued, or now that things are quote unquote normal, has it gone down a little bit?
I would say we only regressed just a very little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. I would also say, being an avid golfer, I don't want to say that it saved golf, but it reinvigorated people into the game because it was something that people could do. So to have 9 municipal golf courses, 2 of them in the top 25 of best municipal in the country, and this is up against like the likes of Bethpage and some of the others, that's truly remarkable testament to Dave Donner, Mark Puckey, Bill Roeder, and the people that maintain these properties. But when we talk about COVID, I remember a conversation that, it said, "Hey, you have too many people at your park. You've got to do some things." We're just like, "You've closed everything. What would you like us to do?"
Right?
And so, the social distancing and things. But to your point, I think the love affair continued, and it reinvigorated people to say, "Hey, this is my area, or this is my park." We also had a lot of folks that said, "Our goal is to walk the entire Emerald Necklace.
Wow.
We're not going to do it in a day,
right,
but we're going to walk the entire Emerald Necklace." And I don't know how many families, husbands, wives that I met on the trail while I was biking or doing things said, "Hey, this is what we're doing."
Yeah,
and
isn't that cool?
That was very cool. So, COVID in a lot of ways, I think rediscovered, the cell phone era that we, there's a chance to be disconnected, and we are an outdoor creature. And Stinchcombe thought of that, 108 years ago. So,
wow.
Yeah,
That's
truly
awesome.
remarkable.
Yeah, because I remember going to Squire's Castle and those trails. I'm like, oh, I'll be by myself. They were packed. They were packed because, they're kind of challenging if you go there. So it was amazing just to see. And people had their mask on, when they put it down, then you'd go by and wave. But that was something really, it was a great period of rediscovery, and I'm happy that has continued on.
With us today is Kenny Crumpton, the leader of Kickin' It with Kenny. I'm Brian Zimmerman, the host of Tales and Trails presented by KeyBank. Thank you so much for being our guest on episode 8 here.
Okay.
All right. So again, we're here with Kenny Crumpton from Kickin' It with Kenny. This is kind of an extended version or a Fallon version, and we're going to talk through some images and photos, and we're going to kind of go quick hits. Are you laughing? Did you know do you remember this morning?
Which one?
I'm on we're on the 2 little stuffed animals.
Oh yeah, well, we did our drag race.
We did our drag race, and we are bundled up. So for those of you who think that we don't bear the elements, there have been some mornings when the tears almost freeze on your eyes.
On your eyes. Yeah, yep. We're like, oh.
And we have to do live TV, but these are 2 amazing creatures, and again, we're just laughing. I remember we're trying to push each other, and we're moving
I couldn't
along.
Figure out where's the button that I pressed, and you're way ahead. I'm like, hey, where's the button I pressed? They didn't tell me where the button was. Yeah.
Again, they call that home court advantage, Kenny.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
Let's talk about the pants. Let's. How many different pairs of pants does Kenny own here?
Of the crazy pants, at least 15.
15.
At least, probably closer to 20. And so I'm buying a new pair for the Fox 8 Golf. So I always try to get a new pair because they're just hilarious. Yeah, I'd say, over 20.
Over 20?
Yeah.
I tell you what, it goes really well with that Sleepy Hollow Fox
really
logo.
Does,
it looks like I had a hell of a drive there, too. It looks like I'm looking out gazing into the...
You're very proud of yourself,
I'm very proud, yeah. Looks like I've got good form going on there.
Yep, going all the way through the ball. Very nice, very nice.
The next one, we're on the Red Line Greenway, which, we talk about the Rotarians, we talk about the rapid beautification process. This was a really neat opportunity for us to tell a story kind of an urban renaissance, kind of taking, and I don't want to call it, the treasure side of things, of making this new connection all the way out to West 65th Street. That was a pretty memorable, because same type of activity, people started to use the trail.
Yeah. And it's funny. I'm looking. You can see Bob's gloves down there as a marker where we need to be. I think we rode up to gloves. Yeah.
Yeah.
We came up the hill. Yeah.
Bob was always like, "Hey, we need you here." Or I think one of the things they're always distance, folks. Like
your mics are going out. Your mics are going out. You guys are too far. Yeah.
Oh, hurry up. So a lot of fun. Again, with us today is Kenny Crumpton, Fox 8 TV news personality, Kickin' It with Kenny. Thank you so much for sharing your time, talents, and treasures with us today. Tales and Trails podcast extended version.
Good morning.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, getting some steps in with Brian here, CEO of the Metroparks. Did 700 miles last year on this bike in the Metroparks. This is the long awaited bridge that connects Windy Park and Whiskey Island to downtown. Right?
Yes, Kenny. So here we are at Windy Park, Whiskey Island, and it's really interesting that just as we started this, the train is going through.
Of course it is.
And you can really see why.
What? I can't hear you because the train's going through.
Well, the reason for the bridge is because we have one of the busiest rail lines here in the United States running right through Cleveland.
We are having a blast on River Fox. Why not? Because it's a beautiful day. Sun's out, guns out, obviously. Guns out? Yeah, guns out. Hanging out with Brian Zimmerman here from your Cleveland Metroparks. These are awesome little guys, aren't they?
Well, these are actually called scooter pals. They're new to the zoo.
What is that over?
That's, oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. There was a little bit of shenanigans going on here.
That's right.
Come on.
pal. Stay in the zone.
Come on, Cozy, come on.
Brian, good morning.
Vacation, Kenny. I didn't know that was such a thing.
Yeah, trust me, I didn't either.